Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, February 17th, 2025. Out of the matrix into prime reality. And for those of you who just loved our previous mantra, we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. 5 years in, we thought it's time to switch it up. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube. And thank you to our wonderful moderator, Ronnie, in the live chat. Of course, Christine, as the wise thumbs in the live chat, is also there. And everyone else, good to see you. Today's topic, granted, I'll say it right off the bat, is gonna sound offensive at times, and it's sort of a little in our faces, all of ours. But I think the truth matters more than temporarily disrupted feelings. We can get over that. The truth, however, does really matter. And today I want to talk about something I call the modern Enlightenment scam. It is a inversion, just like everything else. What is enlightenment? How is it presented in most cases today? Why does this modern representation of enlightenment keep so many people from actually discovering its true meaning? And seeing through this spider web of lies and deceptions can help us greatly to come to a truthful picture, to a balanced picture. And for that, I want to jump in with you guys and sort of discover what modern enlightenment oftentimes means and how it's being defined. So in today's world, enlightenment is marketed as an exclusive, mystical, and elite state, something only a select few can achieve. It's sold as a superhuman upgrade, a way to transcend suffering, emotions, and even the physical world. Many are told enlightenment makes them special, powerful, a part of an elite group of higher beings. It's marketed as a shortcut to happiness, success, and abundance rather than deep self-awareness. New Age influencers push psychedelics, energy activations, and cosmic downloads as the key to awakening rather than integration into daily life. Many are told enlightenment means detachment from emotions, responsibilities, and human experiences. Most spiritual teachings stop at the mind, body, spirit level without recognizing that the true self is beyond all of them. Many enlightenment seekers get trapped in mind games, body purification, or spiritual rituals. So what is the missing piece or the missing piece? First, let's start with the harsh truth. As a species, we truly are retarded. Retardation means to make slow, delay, keep back, or hinder. I'm going to stop right here because here's where the offensive part starts. We are, make the statement, explain it. We are a retarded species. Virtually all of us. There might be a few notable exceptions, but most of us are, in the truest sense of the word, retarded. But what do I mean by that? I want to start with an example. Imagine that a exclusive car manufacturer builds 10 identical high-level sports cars, sort of state-of-the-art, all the bells and whistles, everything you might look for in a sports car and more. Now, in 9 of these sports cars, you have artificial limiters. It's sort of an electronic program that the owners don't know about, but it's there. It limits acceleration, it limits top speed, it limits brake power, and some of the other functions that you might look for. It's still a fast car, don't get me wrong. It's still beautiful, all the bells and whistles, but it has an artificial limiter in there. So the cars can't achieve what they're actually capable of. Then the 10th car, however, does not have that limiter. Okay, so the 10th car does exactly how, what it was supposed to do. So these 10 car owners, because it's very exclusive, get together at a meeting, because only 10 cars were built. So it's an exclusive club. They get together. And all of a sudden, the 9 realize that the 10th car, man, that's faster, accelerates better. It's like the supercar, the superpower, right? And they go, what did you do to it? How did you enhance all of it? He said, no, that's the way I bought it. Like, I didn't do anything. They said, no way. It's way faster than our 9 cars. It's way better. And they don't believe it. They think that it's a supercar, that the guy did something to it. They can't find out what it is, but he surely must have done something to it because this car is superior to the other 9 cars. Now, I want you to hold this in your image for a moment. So, what is the nature of a being? Any being? You could say that it's to be in the state of original design, purpose, and expression. Now, what does that mean? Let's break it down into simple terms. It means that every being, and also everything that we create, it has a design, a purpose, and a expression according to that purpose. As human beings, we're often defined as kind of the body, mind, spirit. Now, let's look at that for a moment. It's missing something, but let's look at that for a moment. So there is the body, which is the most visible part, right? Because we can touch it, we feel it, we have pain, sensations, all of that. And we inhabit this body, you know? So we're currently in a state where a lot of the functions, I think, that this body actually was designed to have and do are suppressed by artificial limiters. Just like in those 9 cars, you had an artificial limiter, an electronic system that suppressed the full expression of that car, the full capability of the engine, right? I think that's what's happening inside of those bodies. So we have those limiters in there, and we can talk about the nature of those a little more. The same thing is happening in the mind. The spirit, I believe, in my seeking and in my exploration, cannot be limited, but the access to pure spirit can be limited by manipulating the mind and the body accordingly. So let's move a little further here in our exploration. What do I think are the true capabilities of an awakened or self-actualized human? And human is not the right word. Don't get me wrong. I know that. It should be man, actually. But when I put man there's a whole other discussion. Pure awareness and expanded consciousness, the ability to see reality as it truly is beyond illusion and programming. Deep intuition and direct knowing. Instant understanding without the need for logic or study. Telepathy, the ability to sense and exchange thoughts without speech. So let's go and let's look at that first one. Pure awareness and expanded consciousness, the ability to see reality as it truly is beyond illusion and programming. So there's a word in there that we use a lot, and we're going to explore that word even more in the future. But the word consciousness / awareness, okay? So if we are body, mind, and spirit, if that's what we are, what is the consciousness part? And I think that this is the part where we need to go a little deeper and look at consciousness or awareness as the part that is observing all others, the part that can observe and influence body, observe and influence mind, observe and influence spirit. Depending on the level of consciousness, whether it is on a lower level or whether it is expanded, our experience changes, our expression of free will changes. Now, the scam is that we are being taught so often, or at least it's being shown to us, that anyone who attains visible levels of expanded consciousness, expanded awareness, and what's happening when that happens is the body begins to remember functions and abilities that it couldn't remember before. It starts to reawaken them. What does it mean when something is being awakened? It means it's already there. It's sleeping. It's just being woken up. So when we start being able to do telepathy, what does that mean? To start sensing, receiving, sending, sensing thought. The thought form versus audible language, sensory sensations. That is immediately, if someone can do it at a significant level, that is immediately being pushed away. Or that's a weird person. Those were the people that were burned at the stake. Those were the people that were pushed out of most societies in recent centuries. Those are the people that are weird and strange. And why is that? Our current system has no specific use for that. Actually, it doesn't want it. So there is no reward for that. I'll give you an example. Most children that are born and raised outside of the traditional current system, which means they're not born in a hospital, they don't get bombarded with initial treatments, and they don't get the exposure to that system. They more often than not retain, in a more expressed way, abilities like telepathy, the ability to see beyond the senses and the visible spectrum. So they see things, they remember things, they can sense thoughts. And when those children, for some reason, do end up going into the system like a school, let's just say that they have some of those abilities, which, are wonderful to have, part of the actual human experience. But then they, because they are in a different state of awareness, they have a hard time maybe sitting still, or they have a hard time memorizing facts that don't mean anything to them. They have a hard time fitting into that, but they have all these amazing abilities, and they oftentimes, will just naturally speak about what the teacher's thinking about because they can sense it. To them, it's something normal. They can sense it. Teacher freaks out. The fellow students start to freak out that girl is reading my mind, something strange. And so that girl with the wonderful natural abilities would get judged and assessed on her abilities to memorize and do what school kids are supposed to do. So she, in her beautiful naturalness, wouldn't be rewarded because we are living in a reward system. And only those capabilities and skills that serve this system will be rewarded. All others will be ignored at best, but punished usually, right? Usually they're being punished. So now what does it teach to this young girl while she still might be in a more subconscious state of mind? Well, these are not wanted abilities. These are strange. These are weird. You better push them down. You better push them away. And so a lot of children, the majority, after a certain age, 7, 8, at the latest, they start losing that. They start forgetting that, right? Because it's not being rewarded, because it's not being wanted, because the system doesn't want it. And oftentimes it will get scared of it. Like it will attach certain stigma to it, stigmata. It will say, well, that's a little witch or something like that, depending on the religious and cultural programming. And so we are then faced with a completely false sense of reality about the nature of who we are on those levels, body, mind, and spirit. So when I say that we are a currently retarded, or almost biorobotic species, what I mean by that is we're living an extremely limited, in an extremely limited way, maybe at 10% of our true capabilities, calling this normal, and calling everyone who's outside of that limited, limited 10%, everyone who can do more or be more, genius, super intelligent, supernatural, enlightened. When I think that the very idea of enlightenment is a scam. We are either beings who are in a state, who are being in a state of beingness and in a state of purpose and in a state of expression according to our true nature, the way that we were designed, or not. There's only those two options. To call those who are enlightened and those who aren't normal, it's a complete perversion of truth and reality. You know, it's like saying that today most animals that we get in close contact with are domesticated animals. So they're animals that we raise and teach according to what serves us best. Truly, right? We teach them what we need from them in order to have the most comfortable experience with them. And we teach against some of their natural abilities and instincts because it's not good for our way of life. But those animals aren't, they're retarded animals, even if they're smart, even if we love them and they love us, but they are retarded according to their capabilities because they don't live up to them any longer. Now, you might not like the word retarded, but I think it's very appropriate. It's not a slur in my perception. It's just an accurate description of what we're dealing with. And we have first allowed ourselves to be, by external forces, be put in a state of regression or retardation, and now we're doing it to each other. And we are stigmatizing the people, or calling them weird or strange or woo-woo or out there, who are simply saying, hold on, you know, I sat with myself. I tried a few things. I was breathing a little deeper. I was focusing on certain things. I sort of got a hold of who I am a little better. And now, you know, I've discovered I can do more. I can do more than I could previously do. And I've been doing it for years. So, you know, I can do a few more things. Now, I didn't enhance my body artificially. I didn't go and had anyone put a spell on me. I simply discovered this. And then, because society doesn't know what to do with that, says, oh, they're enlightened, they're strange, they're weird, they're an anomaly, they're a freak of nature. You know, I bring him up often because he's such a vivid example of that, is Wim Hof. Why do I bring up Wim Hof? Because he looks like most people in our world, right? He doesn't have the long guru thing about him. He doesn't sit in a lotus pose all the time on a throne up there, and he's not doing some sort of weird rituals. He's just Wim. He swears. He says, "Breathe, motherfucker." He's saying that, and at the same time, he's a guy who is extraordinary in our perception abilities, right? But he didn't start out like that. He started out as retarded as everyone else. And then, through suffering and tragedy, he was inspired to dig deeper. And then he did some things which the world called anomalies, freak of nature things, strange, and some said super enlightened, whatever. And then he got sort of fed up with that, and he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach everyday people all over the world how to do what I do, just to prove that I'm not superhuman. I'm not enlightened. I'm not some guru up on a throne who was given special favor by God. No, I just discovered something that was asleep in me before, and now I have awakened it, and I continue to awaken it. I'm living up to my true capabilities. And beyond the Wim Hofs of the world, far less known and sometimes living very, very quiet lives, are people who live up to the true design. They're not enlightened. They're not special. They're not superhuman. They're actually what we were all designed to be. They just discovered it. So what else could such humans possibly be able to do? Telekinesis, mind over matter, the ability to influence the physical world through intent and energy. I mean, we all know this. We've seen the Uri Gellers and the others who bend spoons and who move objects around. And once again, awe, distrust, oh, those are just fakes and tricksters and magicians. And then if they do it right in front of our eyes and we can, you know, for all intents and purposes, confirm that there's not a trick, that it's actually happening, we'd say that's a freak of nature, and we sort of get scared of it. Levitation, defying gravity, right? Mastery over physical density through altered vibrational states. Clairvoyance, seeing beyond the veil. The ability to perceive beyond time and space, past, present, future, which doesn't really exist. Energy mastery and healing, ability to regenerate the body, heal others, and manipulate life force energy. Immense creativity and manifestation, the power to materialize thoughts into reality instantly. This is one thing that, if you've read the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda, he talks about sort of his last desire. And he was with his guru, Sri Yukteswar, and Sri showed him his last desire to, and I forget if it was the Paramahansa's last desire, or if it was actually Sri Yukteswar's last desire. It doesn't really matter. But it was to sort of experience the kind of Taj Mahal material wealth, to experience this grandness of human materialism and whatnot. And the guru instantaneously materialized a Taj Mahal-like building with all the riches and the wealth you could possibly imagine for, I believe it was, in this case, the Paramahansa to experience. And so he materialized it and later dematerialized it in an instant. Now that sounds to all of us completely out of whack. But I would say that such abilities are actually our natural state of being, which means that is the nature of us. Not being able to do this, or having forgotten how to do it, or not believing that we can do it, I believe is the unnatural state of our being. And so I can pull a lot of that from memory, from what happened before being in the physical, in this construct, and memory of no delays, instant creation, expansion of thought into visible form, perhaps not as material as it would appear here, because it's less density, if you will. But I remember all of those things. And I think part of our frustration, yours, mine, and a lot of other people, is that on a deep level, we have that memory. And because we have been programmed through various means into this construct, we hold the memory, but we have forgotten how to activate it. So then we struggle with long delays between our intentions and the manifestations of our intentions. We struggle with the buffer zone of this reality, and struggle sort of with the often dissonance between our thoughts, what we know on a level is possible, but not being able to materialize it. What else is possible? Immortality of consciousness. That's an awareness of existence beyond physical death, accessing past and future lifetimes, and the great beyond, which is perhaps beyond what we could consider a lifetime, but is original state of being, pure awareness, absolute presence and fearlessness, the ability to live completely in the now without doubt, fear, or limitation. These abilities are not supernatural, as I said. They are natural. They have been dulled by conditioning, physiological and technological programming, toxins, and belief systems that limit human potential. A fully awakened human remembers who they are and steps into their true power, free from control. The real question isn't, are these abilities possible, but who benefits from keeping us unaware of them? Despite differences in terminology, by the way, and methodology, all traditions point to enlightenment as the ultimate awakening to truth, freedom, and unity with the infinite. You go and study all the traditions, whether it's the Buddhism, the Hinduism, whether it's the shamanic traditions, even the true Christian traditions, they all point to the same thing. The path may vary, but the destination remains the same. Realization of one's true nature beyond the illusion. And so modern Enlightenment thinking is that you, through practices that might often be called by the deeply programmed demonic or satanic or dark magic, through those practices, you begin to awaken that which is within. Now, granted that there is the shortcut, a bad shortcut. The bad shortcut goes through the deception of external beings, beings that aren't materialized. You might call them demons or fallen angels, whatever, and they will come, if you allow them, and offer an accelerated path, a false path, if you will. They will give you powers, literally, or let's say they will express those powers through you if you allow them. And that is not our natural state of being. That is using inverted consciousness as a short path, right? So we have these pitfalls and these traps. Yes, they are there. But what is birthed from within, or actually awakened from within, that's not the same thing. That is something that's already there. It's an awareness and a possibility and a potential that already exists but wants to be expressed. Why would you want to express it? Because suffering means to live in untruth. And the path to balance, harmony, and our natural state of being is to live in truth. So if we begin to at least acknowledge, not to feed our egos, not to elevate ourselves above others, because it wouldn't be true, but if we at least begin to acknowledge that we are in our natural state capable of all these things, and that even this body that now seems so limited and flawed was designed to be able to do much more, but that we have to, through our free will, with our free will using it, we have to align the body, the mind, and the spirit through free will and consciousness. Now, all this sounds very theoretical, but it's not. You actually know how to do it, because there are moments in your life, or sometimes periods in your life, and sometimes for some people that becomes life, is where you feel like you are in the flow. Now, what does that mean? A flow is quite naturally explained. When there are no obstructions, when there are no blockages, when there are no kinks in the hose, well, then the water flows, doesn't it? So when we don't have any kinks in our energetic systems, in our bodily systems, and in our mind, when we have no blockages, because we've removed them, these artificial blockages that were put there, then the thing flows. So life actually flows through you, and you quit being the efforter who is trying so hard to make this happen, but you actually allow for this to express itself through you, because that's how it was always meant to be. There's nothing supernatural about that. There's nothing woo-woo about that. The woo-woo stuff is everything that we're living. That's woo-woo. That's artificial. That's strange. That's biorobotic and truly retarded. And forgive me, but I call it as I see it. And the beautiful thing is that I have said through this entire show, we are, not you are, we are. We are in various state of retardation, but we can change that. And it is actually, through, immense repetition. Remember this phrase from the Matrix movies, free your mind. Well, that's just one aspect of it, to free your mind, but it's an important aspect. Like the mind as this computer that sort of is the bridge, right, between this construct and anything beyond it, even thought, is highly important. When the mind is impaired, your thing's out of balance. When the body is highly impaired, and I don't mean by, you could be in a wheelchair, right? You could, whatever. It still does not mean that you cannot harmonize that. Well, there's plenty of people who have had impairments of the body, but who have initiated the flow again. And it doesn't necessarily mean that their body all of a sudden moved better or had more capabilities. It means that they allowed for the flow of life to happen nonetheless. Now, down the line, I would think that through the proper realignment, all injuries, all illnesses, all disabilities must cease to exist. Not because we are manipulating them with artificial stuff. It's just because we're bringing ourselves back to our natural state. I truly think that. On a deeper level, I really know that to be true. Can I fully access this? No, not yet. Working on it though. And more often than not now, allowing it. See, I'm very human, and I grew up as an athlete, so working on it and putting a lot of discipline into something, and showing up and sort of making it happen. Those are all qualities that were instilled in me. They serve their purpose. They have their place, but they're not really the true life force, right? There's a time and place for that, but it's not the end, the beginning and the end of all. It's actually the allowing. And so one of the most common phrases that Christine and I have used when working with people, whether one-on-one or in group settings, was before we did anything, give yourself permission, allow yourself to. And you wouldn't believe, it would take 10, 15, 20 repetitions before people would start smiling and going, I've heard you say this 15 times now, but finally I realized what you were saying. I have to actually allow myself, give myself permission to experience this, because we have this programmed obsession that we first need to understand exactly what's going to happen now. We need to have a mental picture of the ins and outs, and we need to have the end result as a mental picture before we can get into an experience. Well, that oftentimes defies the purpose of an experience. But so we need to give ourselves permission. We need to allow ourselves. And you wouldn't believe how many of these blockages in our bodies, in our mind, and in the bridge connection, the spirit, are there as artificial boundaries that we could literally lift if we would just tell ourselves that we give ourselves permission, that we allow ourselves to experience something. The greatest secret of this all is that people will say, most people in the world that needs directions for everything, a manual for everything, where is the manual? What exactly do I need to do? And for most in our culture, to get a layer deeper, we'll have to go out of the doing and more into the being, right? Our culture is very familiar with the doing, keeping ourselves busy, making shit happen. Like I said, there's a time and place for that. But to go into these realizations that I talked about, it requires a state of beingness, stillness, which we have almost lost because of 24/7 entertainment, because of 24/7 distractions. And so we mistake passive absorption of information as being still. No, it's when you are completely with yourself. And for, in the beginning, you're completely with your thoughts. And that can be uncomfortable because for the first time, for 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, you might be actually hearing all of your thoughts. And that might be unsettling. Are your thoughts your reality? Are your thoughts all true? Most of them, not at all. As a matter of fact, most of them aren't even thoughts. Most of them are a movie or a tape that's being replayed over and over again. Experiences of the past, recalled, replayed, re-experienced. Those are not thoughts. That's just playing movies from the memory bank. A thought is actually an act of creation. It must inherently contain something that's at least new to you. And in some very rare instances, a thought can be something new to creation. Very rare. But that's when creation itself, through you, expands. Now, we can theorize about this, or we can begin experiencing it more. The reason why I wanted to go deeper into the subject is because the imitation of artificial enlightenment is now fully unfolding. And it's a term that we have found, or actually want to credit Frank Jacob, he found it, which was called synthetic Christ consciousness. And the idea is, in today's language, it's not called enlightenment, but basically the idea is that we're flawed as we are, and that we need to be enhanced with genetic manipulation, with the hybridization of our bodies with technology and AI, that we need to have the code of life, our DNA rewritten, rewired, and that we need to introduce artificial organisms into us to fix the flaws. And that is the fundamental lie of our time. And so in order to bring that about through all levels of society, they had to heavily manipulate all spiritual teachings and the way that those spiritual teachings express today. And so they had to create the perception that reaching a state of enlightenment is almost unattainable, and only very few special masters and gurus can ever achieve that, and that it requires a lot of this and that and all the other to ever get even close to there. When enlightenment is just a concept that was invented to divorce us from our true state of being. That's all that it was. It was created to make us think that our true state of being is what we are now, and to get more is to be enlightened. When our true state of being, what we're now, is limited by our belief systems, by electromagnetic coding, by toxins, by all kinds of manipulation. It's limiting us. And if we can remove those limiters, and we have to start with the ones that we can control right now, and we'll get to the point where we can remove the others, then by default, we will return to prime design, prime being. Makes sense, doesn't it? Well, that sort of was the message for the day, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. Love hearing from you. And we will be back tomorrow on Locals, any inspired community on Locals. Would love to see you. Meanwhile, you'll probably see some posts about sourdough rye. No, on Locals. Much love, many blessings. We'll be back with you again very, very soon. Listen, right now you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.